internal investigation which is independent and parallel from the current IPIT investigation, as is the practice. The Provincial Commissioner of the Northwest Province, Lieutenant General Mbombo, appointed Brigadier Z.M. Kwanazi, the Section Head Public Order Policing, as a disciplinary investigating officer to conduct an inquiry into both incidents in Regulation 12.1 of the SABC Disciplinary Regulation 2006 on 2014 January 15. The investigation commenced on the 16th of January 2014, and the preliminary report was received on Wednesday, the 22nd of January 2014. The number of officers implicated in the Mothutlung incidents was 14. And on the findings, the members did not comply with some of the core internal operational prescripts insofar as they relate to public order policy, to the provisions of the Regulations of Gatherings Act 2205 of 1993 were inconsistently applied by all parties, particularly as far as Section 3 and 4 regarding the giving of notice and the holding of triangular meetings respectively are concerned. Thirdly, dispersal furthermore did not take place according to the provisions of Section 9 of the Act, and the force used to disperse the crowd was disproportional. Having considered the finding of the investigation that was commissioned, disciplinary action is being instituted against 14 affected members. Six already suspended, others being served with their suspension notices. We envisage completing this disciplinary process within the prescribed period of 60 days. As I conclude, let me reiterate the message we echoed 2 days ago. There is no prevalent culture of impunity within the police service. We are a caring government, and therefore there is no carte blanche that we give to our officers to kill innocent people. As a nation, collectively, as organizers and police, we need to work together to prevent the repeat of such events. It is our responsibility, both as individuals and as a nation, to ensure that protests take place in a peaceful and incident-free manner, guided by the laws of the land. And I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. There's some few announcements. A copy of the statement has been circulated and it's also been sent to Cape Town. This point in time, we can open for questions. If I can take the first round in Pretoria, then we can move to Cape Town. Any questions? Clarity seeking questions? Yes, I've noted one. Yes, sir. Can speak to the mic.
Can you hear me? Yeah, clearly. My name is Ernest. I'm from the Citizen newspaper. In terms of the findings of the investigation, some of the call it internal operational prescripts were not complied with. What exactly are those called, internal operational prescripts?
Thank you. Lorenzo and Lorenzo.
I'm Pearlie from Net 24. I wondered if do you feel let down by government? These people are protesting because of the lack of basic rights. Each time they protest, the policemen are sent in to keep order in difficult and sometimes impossible situations. And now they become the bad guys. What do you think about that?
Okay, Lorenzo.
Lorenzo from ESCA. Minister, you mentioned that the force used to disperse the crowd was disproportional. What does that mean? Does it mean that live ammunition was used? And also, just to maybe get back to my colleague's questions about really people that are dying allegedly in the hands of police. What is being done from the top level about this? And we've seen one more person dying just yesterday already. This brings to about 4 people that have died allegedly in the hands of police. What is going on here? As management, what is your reasoning or your rationale behind these killings and what is being done? Thank you.
Okay, let's take second.
My question was in the same line with that of Leranzo. You know, because I remember at some point, Minister, you said that you looking at banning the use of rubber bullets. So I was thinking, like, would it be the case that maybe live ammunition was used in this case?
Minister.
Thanks, Willie. Well, there are a number of things members of public order policing are trained to do. One of those is that if there are protests, those proceedings must be recorded. And the kind of equipment which is used should be the ones which are allowed to be used. For instance, one of the things which was found to be a problem was the use of what we call gauge 12 round, and those are the rounds with pellets. And those were discontinued in the service in 2006 already, and people were informed about that. So this is one area which was not observed, as it were. There would be others as well. The issue about the police is that it's in the nature of their job that they would come in instances where there's been dispute of one kind or the other. But they can't then say that because this matter has nothing to do with us as police, therefore we cannot attend to it. They are obliged by the law, by the Constitution, to ensure that the safety and security of the nation is taken care of. Well, I never said we need to ban rubber bullets. What we are saying, and we continue to say, and as part of the amended policy which we amended, and I did that in 2011 already, was that public order policing must ensure by all means that there wouldn't be any loss of life during public order policing. And therefore, those things which are said that are not supposed to be used are not used. If you take how members of public order policing are trained, and even with the use of rubber bullets, strictly speaking, nobody should die, precisely because how they are trained. They are not trained to shoot at people. They are trained to shoot in a particular way when dealing with crowds and so on. Now, I won't generalize, but I would say that with the case we are dealing with and the case we are referring to yesterday, these members are members of public order policy, and they are experienced members in that field. They are trained in that field. Now, if somebody is trained to do something in a particular way and decide to do something else, I don't think that even the management can be blamed there. If somebody decides to wake up one day drunk and do something which is not supposed to be done, I think the best way is to deal with that particular person. And this is what, in this instance, we are dealing with. I think even before this is us, let me venture into dealing with what has been in the media about these members, that they were part of Marikana in August 2012. Yes, they were. most of them. But all of them were withdrawn when the day the miners killed some of their colleagues. So on the fatal shooting day, they were not there. So I thought we needed to say that because so much has been said, particularly on that. I'll give both generals on other things, particularly those prescripts which were not complied with. After some of them, and others, there would be National Commissioner and the team. They would be able to delve into that. General.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think in terms of prescripts internally, when we talk about public order policing, General Mawela will touch on those, just to walk you through some of the SOPs that we are having that helps us govern and standardize and make effective our delivery in terms of public order policing. And if there are still any outstanding issues around those prescripts, then we can be able to touch on those. But also, as the Minister has mentioned in his statement, it's important to actually realize that we need each other, the community and the police, because whilst there are rights of citizens, there are responsibilities that goes with those rights. And if we mutually all abide by the laws that govern how we do our work, I'm sure we'll get to an even more efficient public order policing space. As the Minister has said, we manage over 13,000 of this, and as you heard, less than 2,000 are violent. So if we can go to 100% in that space, I do believe that we would have a better country. General Mawela.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, General. Among the others, members of the Public Order Police, they are required to comply with Standing Order 262, which among the others, it requires that members, they must record the proceedings. It also talks about the actions to be taken by the police need to be communicated to the participants of the gathering. It also prescribes what kind of ammunition must public order police members carry and use during the operational activities. We also have a policy which governs the use of force. What kind of force must we use before we can even begin to shoot? We also talk about the policy which the Minister have approved 2-3 years ago. The policy which also call upon ourselves as members of public order police units to engage members of the public we are gathering, to talk to them, negotiate with them before we can even take any action. And it further requires us to can inform the community or the people who are participants in that strike to say what kind of action are we going to take before we even begin to shoot at them. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Let's move to Cape Town. We'll come into Pretoria. Let's move to Cape Town and see if there's any questions. Listen.
Yes, there are 4 hands. I'll start with Kay. They say ladies first.
Thanks very much. Afternoon, Minister. Afternoon, National Commissioner, and others. Minister, I wonder if you could give us a bit more detail in relation to the use of the 12-gauge shot. Is this the only ammunition that is implicated in these shootings? Or is other live ammunition also implicated? What were the circumstances? How is it possible that that these members went out on duty with live ammunition in their possession? Surely that issue is controlled and managed. Are we looking at command and control issues here? Can you give us an indication of the ranks of the 14? You say that they're senior members. We'd just like a bit more detail on that, please. Thank you.
Next one, to the mic.
Mike Cohen from Bloomberg, thanks. Mr. I'd like to just hear from you on the broader issue of public order policing. How confident you are that the situation on that's on the mines, the platinum mines where the strikes are underway, is under control? And is the Dangerous Weapons Act being implemented sufficiently? And we see pictures of protesters carrying what certainly look like weapons that fall under the auspices of the Act. Thanks.
The next one will be James.
Minister, good morning. James Stein from Beeld. I don't think the question was answered about the live ammunition. Was live ammunition issued to these policemen? If that's just to follow up on my colleague. Then my questions, Minister, is the following. The public order policing policy, has that been finalized? Is that policy up to date? The issue that you raised, Minister, that you've confirmed that police officers in Mothutlung was also involved at Marikana. Now, my question is, I wonder if you'd comment on the fact that isn't the rot in the entire POP system? Because if these cops were at Marikana, you're saying they weren't involved in the day of the fatal shooting, yet they have now been involved in a fatal shooting of their own. So, what does that say about the current status of members of POP? I wonder if you'd be able to comment on that. A third question, Minister, is when will the SAPS still be demilitarized? According to the National Development Plan, that is one of the proposals. When will that happen? And a last question, perhaps to General Phiyega. The Opposition Democratic Alliance has announced they plan to march on the Thule House on the 4th of February. Has the police started preparing for that event? Is there a sense of concern being at the police headquarters about this march? It seems there is an element of concern building around this issue. Thank you.
James nearly finished all the questions, but we have the last one. Or the last two.
Let's take the last one, then we'll come back.
Okay, sir.
Wyndham Hartley from Business Day. Minister, if, as you say, the public order policing is members are very well trained, then how do you respond to the accusation that if 14 of them broke the prescripts, broke the rules, then you've got a discipline problem?
That will be all in this round, right?
Thanks, Minister.
There were no live ammunition used. I explained that there are rounds which are known as SSG or 12 gauge rounds with pellets. So that's what was used there, which was not supposed to be used, but that's not live ammunition. As I say, it's mainly pellets. It's the round with pellets. The ranks,
can touch on that.
the general would be able to touch on that. But what I can say is that the members themselves have been in this environment of public order policy. So they are not the people who came yesterday in this area. The issue of the mines, we are concerned about what is happening in the Platinum Belt because of history, of course, of what had happened in the past. And as such, we have raised that. Right now, I'm from there. I was going around those mines before coming to this press conference. We have seen some people carrying weapons, and again, it's a problem. Now, in terms of the Gatherings Act, the organizers have an obligation to ensure that nothing goes wrong. People do what they do, they protest, they strike within the bounds of the law. They must not carry weapons, as we have said here. Now, I took liberty to interact with the organizers yesterday. specifically the president of AMCU, formally pointing to them that they are organizers. And the onus is on them to ensure that people do not break the law. Because before the actual strike, as prescribed in the Gatherings Act, there has to be these talks between the organizers and the police, and those happened. So we are emphasizing even now that we and accordingly, police have recorded what is going on there for the past 2 days. And if anyone is identified as having broken the law by carrying a weapon, is going to be facing the might of the law. So for us, it was more of a warning yesterday to the organizers that they must not abandon their responsibilities or abdicate their responsibilities. Well, the policy is there. It's finalized. There's always been a policy. What I did in 2011, around August, we strengthened that part as part of what the police are in South Africa today, that believing in the philosophy of community policing. So we're emphasizing all the points which have been raised here, starting from the equipment to ensure that the kind of equipment which is there is the equipment which is supposed to be governing properly the public protests and public gatherings without actually having anybody to be hurt or to be killed in the process. And that philosophy is the philosophy which we pursue. So there is nothing like militarized police. There may be military ranks used, but in terms of the philosophy, in terms of the prescripts, the law, everything which governs the police, they remain within that kind of space. You can call your police service or police force whatever you want to call it. What is important is that the fundamentals, the foundation, and the posture of the police, what is it that from recruitment you take your members through? If you like, you can change the ranks and call them holy or what have you. But if your own standing in terms of your doctrine in the police is military, ranks would not say anything. So what is important here is that the NDP emphasizes the point of non-militarized police, and would follow that path of ensuring that police are not militarized. The last point and others with the ranks, the generals would be able to respond to those.
Thank you, Minister. On the issue of ranks, we had 6 constables, there were 6 warrant officers, and 2 lieutenants. And let me say, all of them very well experienced, well practiced, and long in the service of SABC. There was another question that was asked around the march that is going to take place, that has been reported in the media, around whether we're starting to prepare or whether there's an element of concern. Let me say on our part as the police, when you look at the relevant section that defines our remit as police, one of the key areas is public order maintenance. So it doesn't matter where what is happening. If there is a need for maintenance of public order, we as the police shall intervene. We also, in terms of our remit, are requested to enforce the law. So where that is needed, we shall be available for law enforcement. And as we also do that and do roll out our work in terms of public order policing, we do a lot of threat and risk assessment. So when that situation arises, we will look at our remit, we'll also do the necessary threat assessment, and then we will take a decision on how to intervene.
There's two questions. I thought we said if 14 of the police are taken. Perhaps one question is the alleged rot in the public order policing. We've given statistics of what public order policing is dealing with in South Africa. That even the 1,882 which are violent can't be normal. You can't have a normal situation where you have 1,000 plus activities which are said to be violent. And that brings about a bigger picture that we've got to, at some point as a nation, to talk about the violent nature of our society. That if we want to continue, we can continue blaming one section of the society with the violence which is out there in the public. But I think that we should be looking into the broader issue. That why would, for instance, if you have a democratic country like ours, a constitutional democracy, which allow people to express themselves, to demonstrate and do all the things guaranteed not only by the law, by the constitution as well, why would people just disregard the law, not follow the law, not apply too much, not do the things they're supposed to do? And why would people carry weapons? And I'm saying that we should look at this matter broadly. And I don't think that if you have found 14 of the members who are in the wrong within the law, because I must say that these members, not all of them are in for one thing, of shooting and so on. So I think that if there are people who have not done what they were supposed to do, we've got to deal with those people. And this is what we are saying here, and this is what is being done. And I don't know whether you recorded the last question about the 14 members.
Okay, let me just deal with another one quickly, Minister, on the mines. Somebody mentioned the issue around the mines and the concerns around there. I just want to also indicate that some of you may be aware that we launched the Mine Crime Combating Forums. We've started rolling out those in Northwest, for instance, where the strikes are taking place right now. We have that Mine Crime Combating Forum, and it brings to around the table all the stakeholders that are involved in mining. And I must say, even in preparation towards the strike and now, that forum is highly resourceful, and we're hoping that it shall assist us really in mitigating some of the challenges that we may be seeing in that area. You also asked an issue around discipline, and I'm going to ask both General Stole and General Mawela to talk to the issue of discipline. I may also say to you, we're having a big conference of our entire public order policing towards the end of this month as we prepare for the elections, because discipline is very crucial and primary, because some of these prescripts requires not just, a bookish way of implementing them, but also drawing from those personal attributes around issues of discipline, and we prioritize that a lot.
Thank you very much, General, and thank you, Minister. I am Lieutenant General Sito, the Deputy National Commissioner for Policing. I think with regard to discipline, first I would like to say that command and control is part and parcel of the basic policing principles, and it's also embodied in our standing orders. It is enforced on a daily basis. And number two, the very same basic policing principle where command is key, command and control, is also linked to our disciplinary regulations. In case there's violations, transgressions, or omissions relating to command and control, the internal discipline kicks in immediately. Part and parcel of these principles, they include parades. Our members are paraded before deployment. And what happens in those particular parades is inspections. Our inspection starts with operational readiness. If any of our members are not operationally ready, then we run from the deployment. And if there's any conduct or behavior which might compromise the operation, we also deal with it on the spot. This includes the inspection of all equipment, firearms, vehicles. Yes, in any organization, there will be a discipline problem, but in the South African Police Service, discipline is well managed and transgressions are dealt with immediately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll now come to Pretoria and take the last round before we wrap up the meeting. Sophie and Clara, Olani, and then you'll be there last one.
I just want to direct.
Microphone.
I just want to direct.
Use the wrong one.
My question is directed to Commissioner Riah Phiyega and Minister Nathi Mthethwa. Since the Marikana incident, have you possibly had organized a workshop or a briefing with the police in Northwest in particular? Since that we're talking about Mothutlung today, the very same province where we had problems last year. The other question is around the person in charge, the commissioner in Northwest. Is it the same person who was there a year ago when Marikana happened?
I think that's an unfair question because it's not even here. Okay, let's move to the next one.
Afternoon, Minister and National Commissioner, and activities as well. My name is Nathi Mthethwa from SABC. I've got two quick questions to the Minister. It's a direct question to the Minister. First one is, can you proudly stand on the podium, Minister, and says to us, we have managed to transform or democratize this important service called the police service since 1994. The second one, which is a follow-up, what happened to the agreement or collaboration between the South African government and the Belgian authority to demilitarize the police? What happened to that program and agreement? Thank you.
Okay. I think you had
Another last one.
Okay, we'll come to you. Lady behind you.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm with AFP. I was wondering, how long will any of the officers resign? And if not, how long will their suspension be? And I was also wondering is it 4 people being charged with counts of murder and attempted murder? Just exactly, is it spread out on 4 people only? That's it.
Madia from Power FM. My question kind of is similar to what Lorenzo asked earlier on in terms of what happens next. You know, at the top, it's one thing to look at policies, It's one thing to look at situations as they unfold. Someone mentioned Marikana, now we're looking at Northwest, someone mentioned the Durban Deep protest. But overall, what is being done to try and change even the understanding by the public that police officers act with impunity? What else is happening at the top to try and change attitudes and an understanding what's happening with the police?
There's a lot happening. Can I suggest that we take the last round of tour and then from the Kolani and then, okay, Kolani and then Mthethwa. Kolani.
Kolani Mbaga from the City Press newspaper. I'd just like to ask the Minister and the Commissioner whether can you tell us with certainty that as everybody is anticipating a strike and you have called for peace and for nobody to carry weapons in Marikana during the platinum strikes, can you tell us with absolute certainty that there cannot be and there won't be a repeat of Marikana, a repeat of Mothutlung where residents have died and the hands of police? Can you tell us that with certainty? Thank you.
Some of the questions, I think you should also ask the question to the conveners to say, can they tell us with certainty that their members will be there? Anyway, let me give to the Minister.
I wanted to start there that I think everybody who's involved has a responsibility to ensure that things happen accordingly. People do not carry weapons to start with, because if they carry weapons, they will force the police to disarm them. Now, the onus is upon everybody. The force levels on the ground and with what we see have made us to think that we need to take all precautions and deploy as much as possible. Obviously, we are not going to be everywhere, but a sizable number of public order policing police unit would be deployed there, including members who would be sent or who have been sent already by the environment of General Mawela. We want a peaceful strike. Now, police are not striking. Mine workers are. And therefore, what we have said and sent as a warning to organizers would reiterate that organizers have an obligation to ensure that there is peace, no reason for any other thing, so that the police would also play its role insofar as that is concerned. Well, changing attitude of everybody is always going to be a process. A process in the sense that if you look at the SAPS and look at the magnitude of the organization itself and start isolating those individuals who do the wrong things, I don't think that it would be fair then to generalize that there is the entire police service is not worth to be trusted by the people, because we go to communities on a continuous basis, not because there is something which has happened there, but precisely to ensure that we strengthen this very important part of community policing, of engaging with the public and strengthening the partnerships with the public. And we know that when something happens to police, it's not much of an issue. If police are brutalized, are killed, and when they are responding to call-outs by the public, the media and everybody, it's not an issue. It's not much of an issue. But what we are saying is that it is much an issue as any other person who is being brutalized in South Africa. With accusations, sometimes legitimately, of police using excessive force, even in instances where they are not supposed to. And we've made that clear to our communities, to the public, that we stand by our members of the SABC, in protecting and serving the community. But those who would be doing something outside of that and outside of the law would never found any support or any commendation from the side of both the management and the leadership of SABC. How long will they be suspended and so on? I think let's say that the process has to be finalized within 60 days. And this is what we intend doing. Whether at the end of the day they are suspended or they retire or they are fired or whatever, it will depend on the proceedings of the case itself. So we can't, the disciplinary case, because this is what we are confining ourselves into today. There is another process, which is a criminal process by IPID, and that also is taking its course. Agreement with the Belgian, we have agreement with a lot of police forces around the world. And the Belgian experience is one such experience like many other. We, as we said earlier on, compare ourselves and interact with a number of them. You have the police of France, the gendarmerie, you have the police elsewhere in the US, in the UK, and so on. We interact with all of them, and most of them have different take because of their experience, and they use different models. And ours is to see which one is going to be beneficial for the people of South Africa. And this we would continue to do. We would still, sign agreement with others as well. We've engaged with some in the continent here, and we'll continue with in other continents as well. Police democratic, I think. I don't recall of any police which will be democratic. There's no force which will be democratic. But the orientation becomes important, because all police forces the world over are just that they are the force. They have orders, they have command and control. There's no democracy there. There are instructions which are not necessarily democratic, that you don't sit down and go through a democratic process. What is important, and what I think we should be looking into, the actual deepening of transformation of the police, so that those who were trained in a particular way in the past, the process continues of de-educating them and re-educating them in the new situation. You see that when you go to the colleges of the police, the curriculum, which General Mbegela is responsible for, which police are taken through, speaks to the ethos of democracy. They speak to the ethos of transformation. Now, I don't know whether we've moved fast enough to have this transformed police service. I won't say certainly that we've reached a point that we've covered almost all the 200,000 members of SABC, and all of them abide by what they're supposed to do, except that because it's an environment which is regulated, everybody is expected to do as regulation dictates. So that if you do something else, you then find yourself in a difficult position. But I think that the issue of transformation is an ongoing process. It will be ongoing. What is important is the steadfastness and the conviction with which you pursue that kind of an aspect of our lives. If you look at how police are commanded today, if you look at the demographics, if you look at the gender balance and so on, if you look at the philosophy which is being imparted within the police, you would realize that this is not the police which you had under apartheid. You would have people who would be found transgressing from time to time, but the body of SABS is not the body which represents the past.
Minister, if I might just catch the tail of what you've just said, I would like to remind you that this is a service that integrated 11 agencies. And it was important for us, as the Minister is saying, to go through a journey of building a new common culture. And that can never be an event. It is a process, and we continue on that journey. And if you look even at some of the new qualities that are being introduced into policing, if you take the 10 commissioners of the South African Police Service, as the Act puts, you need to have a national commissioner and 9 commissioners. 50% of that group has women, so it is gender balanced. So all those passionate and compassionate qualities are being introduced in a service that did not have that in the past. So that journey we are boldly traveling through. A question was asked to say, since we had the Marikana process, did we have workshops? So let me say many, the dialogues, the consultation, the refreshers, the engagement. I've just indicated that as we prepare for elections, we're having a national conference of all the commanders so that we can remind ourselves to say, as we go into elections and prepare for public order policing and all those processes, what is it that we should be doing? We continue to revise and refresh our instructions, our circulars. So a lot has been done, and we learn from others too. We engage, across the border, because we're part and parcel of the region. With SADC, we have a lot of training that we have as countries in the SADC. We also have some Pan-African interventions with some of the police agencies out there. So we do a lot. We engage internationally. So there's a lot that we're doing as police to better ourselves and to better muscle ourselves up for doing our work. And indeed, there will always be challenges, but we will be up to it to face those challenges and deal with them, because this country deserves better. Public order is the bedrock of all successful democracies, and we must make sure that we continue to ensure that this country has public order.
In fact, to add on to that, this month, and I think on the 29th, we are opening the first university for police, not only in South Africa, but in Africa. So those are some of the efforts as we professionalize the service. Let's go to Kapstad and get the last round of questions.
Yes, we have 3 questions from Kapstad.
Richard Davies from SAPA. Minister, you said there was, my question refers to Mothutlung. You said there was no live ammunition used, but said there was in fact 12 gauge rounds, pellets fired. Can you say how many rounds were fired by how many officers? And I just wondered, with the investigation, was there any indication that these officers had reverted to using 12 gauge shot because there were no rubber bullets available? There have been reports that there is a shortage of rubber bullets. I wonder if you could reply to those 2 questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, that I was wanting to get more clarity on the shot used. I mean, 12 gauge, I understand, is the bore of a shotgun. So the size of the shot would be what we would like to know, and an estimation of SSG. So we need clarity that there's no, we're not talking about rubber bullets here, because you also get 12 gauge rubber bullets. I just wanted to ask the Minister whether he doesn't think that this is it's not just the 4 people at Mothutlung. We've had the Durban Deep shooting as well. It goes beyond public order, clearly. Is this not something to step down over, Minister? The other question that I've got is, are we at full strength in terms of our public order units? Do we have the numbers that we require, particularly given the escalation in the number of incidents of public protest and given our pending elections? To what extent are ordinary members of the service being deployed for public order policing events? Thanks, Minister.
And the last one will go to James. That was Kate Davis earlier on. I know you cannot see us, but we can see you. The last one goes to James.
James Stein from Built Again. Just also a brief follow-up. Minister, is pellets not live ammunition? As far as I know, that is live ammunition. I wonder if you could just clarify that. Also, the Durban Deep shooting. Has any police officers been suspended for that death of that civilian? Then perhaps a question for you, Commissioner. We've been told the number of protests, 13,000, of which 1,800 odd were violent. Could you give us a number for perhaps 4 years ago or the year before? I'd just like a comparison. And then, Commissioner, also just a number. Does the police have a number of the number of civilians or people shot dead by the police in 2013? Could you give us that number? And then, Minister, perhaps a final question for you, Minister, is the following. Do you not think that there is a breakdown in trust between civilians and the police? It does appear that there seems to be growing distrust in the ability of the police to protect civilians. Given, for instance, that there's been a 40% increase in criminal cases laid against police over the last year. More than 7,000 criminal cases have been laid against police members just last year. Should we be concerned about this break in trust? Minister, you keep referring to members of the public being unlawful, but I would argue that the police are not handling themselves in the best manner either. Thank you very much.
Thanks. That will be all from Cape Town.
Thank you. I think James has got a special briefing on it. He's got so many questions.
Very specific sizes and so on.
Okay, Minister, over to you.
I'll come after. They're specific, yeah.
I think on the issue of, I think there were a number of questions around the ammunition that we use, the number of rounds, the nature, the classification thereof. I'm going to ask our head of operational response services, General Mawela, just to walk you through all those issues that you've raised. General Mawela.
Thank you, General. During police action at Mothutlung, the police on that day, they used the stun grenades. 2 stun grenades were fired, followed by the CS canisters, what we call it, the smoke grenade. And then later on is then when members defuse rubber shots. And amongst the others, that's where the SSG was used. The total number of the rounds fired there, if I'm not mistaken, it's 185. Let me quickly check here. 185 shots were fired. Okay.
General, may I just want you, again, just to go to that 12 gauge round with pellets, just to explain it, and the issue that it is not live.
Yes. Thank you very much, General. This 12 gauge ammunition, this is the type of ammunition we use with the shotgun. that long gun which is normally used by public order police members. And we have different types of rounds which are used with that particular shotgun. The first one, we have what we call the M9A1, double ball bitel. Is a type of ammunition. We also have what we call it the number 5 bed shot. We also have what we call the AAA round. We also have what we call the SSG round. This SSG round is similar to the rubber bullet which we are using. The only difference is that inside that inside that cartridge, there are pellets. As compared to other cartridges where there is reduced rubber. So when we talk about the live ammunition, we talk about something which is having the projectile, like a normal bullet. If you can see the normal bullet, it's having a pointer there. That's what we are talking about. But on this one, is this cartridge which contains certain stuff inside. And this SSG is containing the pellets. And the rubber, these other ones is containing the rubber balls in there. That's what we are talking about. Thanks, General. Thanks, Minister.
And maybe to underscore that, that SSG has been discontinued in 2006, and that's where we said certain prescripts were not followed. Okay, the matter of Devon Deep has been reported to IPID, and I can report that some arrests have been effected. There was a question around the full strength of POP. We are in the process and have announced in the past that we're ramping up strength in that area. Currently we have a capacity of about 4,000, and in a phased process, maybe in the next few years, we are looking at ramping up to 9,000. So that process is underway, but it will be a phased process. It's not something that we can afford once at a go. Minister, I don't know if you wanted to help with
yes.
that.
But let me say that the public order policing, you would remember that it had been shut down much earlier. We only re-established it some 2 years ago. So whatever is being done is to try and fill the gap which was there. But also this is the kind of unit which gets strengthened based on the challenges on the ground. Currently, we think that there is a lot of public order policing which has to be done and crowd management. So that would continue. Regarding the breakdown between communities and the police, I think it's a general statement. Because that is not how communities, when we interact with them, say. Members of the community are very specific. In a particular policing area, they would say that police officer so-and-so is working well with the community or is not working well with the community. So it can't be a general statement. And I'm certain that in instances where police have not served the community well, communities have been able to say that this police station or this cluster or this kind of police officers are not serving us well. The issue of strengthening the partnership between the police and community again, is an ongoing one, because first and foremost, the history of where the police come from comes into play here. And all what we've been doing, which has been favorable over a period of time, is to ensure that we limit the gulf between the community and the police. That is why units like public order policing, for instance, have been given very specific instructions of further interacting with the public, including the managing of the public protests, that the inclusion of the negotiation between the public and the police comes as one of those things which are trying or starting to make the police interact with the public on an ongoing basis, than seeing the police as us and them. Because it's only when every member of society, including the police, understand that they have the support of the community. Obviously, the community is not going to support police if they are not conducting themselves well. Thank you.
The other one that you asked about, the statistics. In the past 18 years, as the police, we've handled over 150,000 public protests. And every year, I won't be able to give you the outside thousands. In the past 3 years, I know when we were presenting our annual report, we do not handle less than 10,000 each year. So we can share those statistics for those that are interested when time allows, but I'm sure Sweli would be able to assist in that regard. We can make those statistics available. Thank you.
In fact, I think on that point, General, some of the figures, you can get them from the IP report, because that is where they are recorded in terms of number of deaths as a result of police action. On that note, I wish to thank members of the media in Cape Town and here in Victoria, and also thank the Minister and the Generals. That concludes the briefing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Okay. Thank you, comrade.
I supported you.